The St. Louis Blues and Doug Armstrong give multiple updates around the team heading into game one, and Doug Armstrong gives key details on Oscar Sundqvist's injury and one player that looks like maybe extending his contract with the team moving forward. We're going to break down all this from the injury, a new signing incoming, and so much more as things get crazy around the St. Louis Blues. And we're going to break down all that in this episode. You're not going to miss it. So, Darius, let's just jump straight into it today, where we do get an update on Sundqvist going in. He is week to week with a lower body injury. Now, looking at this, week to week doesn't sound great, but it continues on where Doug Armstrong said that it's probably going to be a week. They're going to miss the first 3 games, and the quote from Doug Armstrong himself, I felt bad for him. He's such an upbeat guy again. This isn't somewhere that's considered about a week to week. It's more like a week. So yeah, I feel bad for him because he continuously puts in the work day to day and is going to turn the luck the other way. Now, Doug Armstrong spoke and said that was family day on the final day of practice going into the season. And he said that Oscar got hurt on the boards about 5 feet away from his wife. Darius, the luck has not been great with Sundqvist, but a huge part of this team. We've seen it not only with the production, but just a leadership role. Winning a Stanley Cup, a fan favorite. What is your thoughts on the update where it seems like it's going to be maybe just 3 games?
Yeah, one of the longest tenured Blues. And obviously, you never like to hear that a player is, injured and going to miss time. And it doesn't sound that good week to week, like you said, but it also doesn't sound that bad. It could be out indefinitely. It could have been a significant injury that kept him out a couple months. So thankfully, he's only going to be out week to week. And we don't know exactly what that means. He could be out for the rest of the week. He could be out for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, right? At this point. So he'll be back relatively soon, which I think is good because, again, one of the longest tenured Blues plays that leadership role. Like you said, they need a guy like this in the lineup who, carries that culture because obviously there's a lot of younger players on the team this year, or some more younger players, I guess. A lot of the guys are returning from last year, but he's just one of those guys. They need him in the lineup, and I think they're a better team when he is in the lineup, and he plays that role that we've been talking about for the St. Louis Blues. You need certain guys in the bottom 6 that do certain things, and he's one of those guys, and he's going to play a hard-nosed style. And they could probably use him in the lineup, but now I think it's interesting that, somebody else gets an opportunity. And a lot of people are wondering, are they going to make a move? And I'll throw it back to you, Mark. It doesn't look like they're actually going to make a move in terms of calling anybody up. It looks like they're just going to rock with what they have. And obviously things will get interesting. We'll cover morning skates and practices and all that stuff as things get going here on Thursday. But ultimately it sounds like you're going to stay with the same roster. They're going to stay with the same players, and eventually he'll rejoin them in a couple weeks.
Yeah, because losing him in the bottom 6, it sucked. I'm glad that we're going to get him back sooner rather than later, but getting the 31-year-old back into the lineup is going to bring a lot of culture to the team. We've seen it season after season. The players love having Sundqvist. The fans do as well, but the big thing is, yeah, it did seem like they're running with a 22-man roster. From the updates we've been seeing, the Blues have no reason to go out and call up a guy from the AHL. They want them to continue going into their camp, fighting for the spot, getting more ice time. So calling up a guy just to sit in the press box, yes, it's nice to bring a player up to come around the team culture, to get them into the NHL atmosphere, but it does seem like they want to run with the 22-man. They're going to have Texier as an extra, as well as Matthew Kessel, so they have the extra bodies there. It does suck that we did have to lose some players to waivers. We've seen it over the past couple days. We've sent a couple players down, but this does seem like the dead set roster going into the first game. And Darius, listen, there's a lot happening with this Blues team. We know that they're going to continue look to get better. They're going to have extra cap space with Kyrou on the LTIR, but one move that seems a little surprising is the fact that we got quotes from Doug Armstrong speaking on Lucic. Also, listen, go check out all Lou's work. Awesome job. He'll be linked down below as well. But he says dealing with a lower body injury that he will rehab here. Will extend his PTO in the 10-day increments, and whether he earns a contract yet will not be determined. So the big thing with Lucic is he's going to, and it seems like at least, go into getting another PTO with the team. He got banged up. We can see the quote coming from Doug. They want him to be 100% healthy, but when signing a PTO, he can't play in games. He'll be practicing with the team, working with the team. Darius, once again, does this seem like something that's almost getting dragged on too long? We're going to break down a couple of key players, but with this Blues team, I don't know if Lucic truly fits into it, and I think it would be better to maybe push him in to a player development coach.
Yeah, and I think you were talking about that yesterday in a video that we did about, maybe him joining the head office in some, some type of role like that. Like we just saw Zdeno Chara, join with the Boston Bruins as well. So something like that, I think, could make more sense because this is being dragged on a little bit too long at this point. He said, and he being Doug Armstrong said that, we'll see. We're going to keep extending his PTO and then maybe he'll earn a contract. Well, listen, like we went through training camp. He looked pretty slow. He was on a PTO. He didn't get a contract. He got hurt at the end of training camp. Maybe it's time to just, cut ties at this point, or as a player, at least, like maybe he can stick around the organization and help in some way. But to me, maybe it's time to, to cut ties as a player, at least with the organization. And the fact that they want to keep extending the PTO and he's going to be here rehabbing his injury, that's all like fine. That's all good stuff, right? And I hope that he gets better. Of course, you don't want to see any player get injured, but that might be dragging it on too long. Like, are we going to get into November and we're still talking about a PTO and he might end up, earning a contract and joining the team? Like things are going to be well in motion by that point. You want certain guys, getting into the lineup and playing those roles pretty regularly. And of course, if you have a back-to-back, you bring in some of the guys who are extras. But to me, I would stop this, right? I've never understood the signing besides the experience thing, him coming into training camp, being able to talk to some of the younger guys about, this is the way you should play. This is how you win a Stanley Cup and all of those things. But besides that, he looks slow in training camp to me. He looks slow in the games, looked like a step behind, all of that stuff. And it's not necessarily his fault. I mean, he hasn't played in a year, right? So obviously he was coming into training camp and trying to do his thing. But to me, I don't see why they could drag this on that much longer.
And I mean, the biggest thing is looking at Lucic, you'd almost rather bring someone. Listen, if Pat Maroon was still in the league, it would be awesome to get the big rig back on the team. But with Lucic, I feel like this is the situation where at the very best, and listen, he could sign with this team, he could turn heads, he may surprise a lot of people, but I could truly see, and listen, this is not the dedicated lines going into the AHL. Justin Carbonell's there. It's just all the young guys, but I do expect one of these guys to be called up at some point in the season. Stenberg, Dvorsky. There's so many names, and I do like Lucic maybe getting an AHL contract that can be converted into an NHL at some point. Yes, Lucic wants to get back into the league. This might be his last chance to truly prove it. Maybe Doug Armstrong says, hey, you're not going to get an opportunity to be an NHL player here, so we're going to continue working out. Maybe another team needs a forward after an injury, and you'd be perfectly into shape. I do like that Doug Armstrong is giving him the opportunity to go out, get back in the game. If he can prove he should be in the lineup, sure, this works perfect, but I do tend to agree that an AHL contract or let him part ways when another team needs a forward is the best suit. But Darius, looking at the young group, once again, this is not the lines going into the AHL for Springfield. We know there's a lot of guys, once again, Carbonell down in the queue, but looking at this lineup, it's going to be very young players in the A. Do you think sending Lucic down on a contract, maybe it's an AHL tryout, maybe it is an AHL contract, do you think this would work better for the Blues?
That would work better if we're talking about this or that, right? If we're talking about the NHL versus the AHL, but you would send him down, he would still be playing, fourth line minutes on this team. You have to get the young guys to be playing in the top six, as you can see here. You got guys like Dvorsky, you got guys like Stenberg that have to continue their development because you want them on the main squad in a couple of years. So they have to play those top minutes. So if Lucic is to join the team, the AHL squad that is in Springfield, it could make some sense, again, for the same reason as to why they signed him in the first place to a PTO, to come in, be with some of the younger guys and be like, listen, you got to change this way about how you play because it's not going to work in the playoffs, right? Stuff like that. So I feel like that could maybe be valuable in that way. But again, that would just be like an AHL thing. I don't know where he fits in anymore on the NHL team. And things are going to get rolling here by the time that he's ready to go and trying to earn a contract if he is still on a PTO. So I wonder if they go an ATO route for this, have him on the the Springfield team, fourth liner, something like that in every other game, something like that, just to be around some of the younger guys. So that could make some sense to me. But to me, like the NHL thing has, Doug Armstrong's going to do what he does, right? But to me, I just don't know how that fits and if it makes sense anymore.
But Blues fans, what is your thoughts on this? What is your thoughts on Lucic and the contract that seems like it may come, may not come? We have no clue what's going to happen. What's your thoughts on Sundqvist? Let us know down in the comments. And speaking of comments, let's go straight into comments today. Coming from Rust, and he says, let's say a prayer for Sonny tonight, number 70. And I agree. I want Sonny back in this lineup. He's a huge part of the Blues team. He always has been. Getting him back and healthy and knowing that this injury seems like it's more going to be 3 games instead of an extended period of time is awesome to see. But let us know all your thoughts down below, and you could be featured on Comment of the Day. While you're down there, leave a like, subscribe, share this with your friends. We'll be back in another episode, so keep your eye out for that. But I've been your host, Mark, with my co-host, Darius, and take care, Blues fans.